Christian should be joining us shortly, but he's running. Oh, look at this! Right on time. Boom. Let's see if it works. Boom! Look at that! Look at that!
Yeah.
Perfect timing. So, Christian, how have you been?
Oh, good. Put my
Good,
house
good.
on the market, so we're down here at the beach. I'm broadcasting from the business center
Nice.
of the St. Regis in Topsail Beach.
Nice. I just a quick aside to everybody that's watching. I am having kind of a rough day medically, so if you see me like shuffle a lot in my seat, that's just because I'm trying to find a comfortable position. But shouldn't interfere with the show. The show must go on. Today is going to be a fun one. All right, it's like a fun topic. It includes a lot of science, but it also includes some conspiracy theory and some other stuff. It's a lot of fun. I'm a big. This is a little known fact about me. My favorite movie genre is actually like apocalypse movies, right? Like, so I actually like 2012 and Armageddon and Deep Impact and crazy stuff. Like, even if it's not that good of a movie, I'll still watch
Global disaster movies.
Yes, all the global disaster movies, absolutely. And so that's what we're going to get into today. So, the Doomsday Clock is a clock that these atomic scientists set every year, basically since the inception of nuclear arms, essentially, like 1947, I think, is when they started it, and it's basically like a countdown. I tried to find an actual calculation, but I don't think that it goes by like an actual mathematical.
It's a metaphor.
Right.
It's a metaphor.
Right. So, and of course, if you were to understand all of human existence as something that could be split into 24 hours, right? Right now, the Doomsday Clock is set to 89 seconds to midnight, which means out of all the 24 hours of our life cycle, we're like right at the very end, about to get destroyed or devastated or something like that.
Well, I mean, the part of the thing is like all the scientists who started it were involved in the Manhattan Project.
Yeah.
And none of them are alive anymore.
Right.
Right. And so, yeah, it was a metaphor to say that we're this close if somebody doesn't step forward and stop it, if action isn't taken to prevent it. So It's not a prediction of when anything like that. It would say like if forces aren't trying to stop this.
Right. Yeah,
it's right.
It's almost more of a measure of like how much progress somebody's trying to make to prevent some of these items than all right, so let's talk about the big items, right? The big categories, right? These things fall into basically essentially one of four categories, but I've added a fifth, right? So the four big categories are climate related disasters, nuclear fallout or nuclear war related disasters, biohazards, like any kind of like pandemic or something like that, and then emerging technologies, things like AI and other things like that. That's the big one. Now, of course, everybody's got their kind of their favorite or whatever, the thing that they are most afraid of. Most of you guys out there know that my boogaboo is AI. I don't know what Christian's is. Christian, what's yours? What's your favorite? Like your most
bears, polar bears.
Polar bears? You're afraid that like they're just going to start taking over the world and run down over North America and.
No, I mean it's. I think it's Elon Musk's biggest fear that people just stop having families. The birth rates will collapse. And,
that's a big one.
That essentially, that people will lose sort of. Anyway.
Like the will to live, essentially, the will to continue.
Yeah, incentive or the drive to have families and to sacrifice, right? Because having children, while it's a joy, right, is sacrifice, and there's a point. It's a personal decision everybody has to make. But both of you and I have children, multiple children.
Yep.
But like especially Asia has reached where over half of their men and women of childbirth age have opted out and say, no, I'm never going to have children. Don't want children. Do. And
Right.
that's really with their birth rates, right? 2 people are dying for every child born.
Right.
So
Right.
that's my sort of fear, as well as any type of we've had global plagues and other things have been able to bounce back. We've had floods, we've
Right.
had things, but if people don't want to have children, like
Yeah, that's a
that's a
tough one.
new sort of threat.
That's a tough, and a lot of these like go together too. Like for example, the war in Russia and Ukraine has cost an overwhelming number of like breeding level aged men, right? Like so, like overwhelming amount of the guys that are like 16 to 35, the guys who are like trying to get out there and have a family, have kids, are out of the picture now, which is a huge disaster. And so of course, their economy is going to follow suit. Their populations are going to follow suit for the next 50 years or something. All right, so let's talk about the biggest disasters with regard to some of these broad categories. So climate change is probably the most popular, right? It's probably the one that the scientists today would claim is the biggest issue. Now, the problem I have with climate change is that I have done an overwhelming amount of research trying to understand exactly what the issue is, what will happen, exactly how much humans are contributing to it, and exactly what, the prediction is, right? So like I delve into it, and the problem is what I get is like all of these like kind of vague correlations. Things like men cause more CO2 to go into the atmosphere. And I'm like, okay, what does that do? Well, carbon dioxide makes the atmosphere, more keep more heat. It's a greenhouse gas, right? And so I'm like, all right, and what does that do? I was like, well, it'll heat the world. Okay, how much? Well, we don't know. Right. And so like that's where you run into this weird situation where it's like I'm hoping for these like specifics. Like I'm hoping somebody can say, by 2015, or whatever, by 2035, all of the polar ice caps are going to melt. By 2050,
Yeah.
we'll have a runaway greenhouse effect and everybody will die, right? Like I'm looking for that kind of specificity, but it's very difficult to get with climate change because the models are so outrageously complicated.
Yeah. So I am a climate change science skeptic. Like I understand, right? I believe we're still coming out of an ice age, and our climate is changing. I believe, and this is the biology has me on this, that carbon dioxide is an organic molecule. It
It
is
is
not a
indeed.
pollutant. It is the foundation of organic life,
Right.
and that so many things need carbon dioxide to live. Plants, many single cell organisms, things feed off this, and can boost that. Right. So carbon dioxide is not a pollutant, and not one that I am prepared to address. And so the original Doomsday Clock scientists didn't have this in there. It's after they all died. This is, I think, where they started the Doomsday Clock Society, or people, they used to put out a magazine. Now it's all online. Lost some of their credibility. Is I feel like that this is a political football, right? And that there's pressure for anybody predicting anything to get on board and try to push panic about climate change, right?
Right.
Partly, I don't see, right. Imagine this was switched where the world was cooling too
Right.
much,
And it
and it was
was
like we
in the
need to,
70s.
and we need to, and we as men go, we need to do stuff to make it hotter. Like, I think we'd be impotent to that. And I
Yeah.
think we're impotent to this as well. I think that there are natural mechanisms. The biggest thing that regulates CO2 in our atmosphere is the huge amount of photoplankton in the ocean,
Yes.
right? And right, so the analogy, it's I've told you the biology between the correlation between coyotes and rabbits before. Have I told you this? So basically, when you have a ton of rabbits, right? Wild rabbits running around. Very in short order, you'll have the coyote population start exploding,
Oh,
and
right,
then
right,
the rabbit population will go down, and then all of a sudden, in the echo after that, the coyote population goes down. They start having small litters. They start
right. It's
everything,
not
and
enough food.
then when the coyote population's down, now the rabbit population goes up, and then the coyote population goes up, and then right. And so I feel like, and this is the natural thing, nobody freaks out about, like, oh my gosh, there's gonna be no rabbits, or my gosh, there's gonna be no coyotes.
Right.
We have to let the natural mechanisms, the natural photoplankton out there deal with that. And that deals with carbon dioxide so much more. We're worried about trees and rainforests and these, and I'm not saying that they don't deserve concern, but there are things in the ocean that we really have no, on a macro level, have
Right.
no
And
influence. That we're trying not to make any more of this photoplankton. We're not killing it. It's just there. It's doing its job. When there's more carbon dioxide, it blooms. When there's
yeah,
less,
there's just to give guys a quick, like, I mean, and keep in mind, I'm not a climate scientist, and I don't understand this. I would not call myself somebody that understands this well. But just to give you guys a brief understanding of like how intricate it is, it's not just like heat comes into the planet and heat leaves the planet, and that's like the only
yeah,
calculation. Because, like, let's say the planet starts warming up, and then the polar ice caps melt, and now you have more water, right? Which produces more photoplankton, right? Which will,
yeah,
because you've got more ocean, right? And then you also have a larger surface area of a reflective surface because water is reflective. And then you also have like then the atmosphere comes into play because there's like, and something we're going to talk about in a little bit is microplastics are floating around, and
yeah,
nobody really knows what they do to the atmosphere, but they're definitely not good for us, right? And
yeah,
then on top of that, then when more water gets into the ocean, then the oceans desalinate, which changes the climate.
yeah.
And then, like the currents will shift and that changes the climate. And then it's like on and on and on and on and on. And it's very difficult to understand exactly what will take place. And I wish, man, I wish we could come up with some more. We really need to study it. We
Well,
really need to dig into it.
but partly is, yeah, I haven't seen any public policy that I feels like has any impact. Right?
Right,
There's public shaming. I don't think people freak out about carbon or about coal because it's very visible. You can see smokestacks
right.
and things.
They freak
But
out about nuclear
like,
because of Chernobyl.
if it was reversed and we needed to warm the world, what would the policy be? What could we as governments act? I don't think we can in this case. So I feel like the policy as far as trying to change or prevent or stop climate change
Right.
is very tainted with politics and has been co-opted by the left as a means of this endless pit of money that they can then pour into other leftists as a money redistribution that they can sort of tax wealth
Right.
and redistribute it with. And it doesn't matter if any of these programs are effective. It's the ultimate, like, I'm just trying to work on stopping climate change. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter, right? And so there's no means of show your results being effective or not. You can literally dump money into a black hole and nobody can hold you accountable for it. And so I'm strongly skeptical, if not outright opposing, any type of funded action from our government to try to deal with this. Now, if there's new
I'll say,
technology or something that might change my mind, but presently I'm very skeptical.
yeah. I mean, I'll say I'm probably more of a centrist when it comes to this idea. Like, I think that it's safe to say that humans affect the climate. That's not like a hard
Yeah,
a
yeah,
hard thing,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But do we really know exactly how much? No, we don't. But we do know that we do affect it, right? And I feel like, regardless of the circumstances, we should be good stewards of our environment, right? Like, we should
well,
be
yeah,
good stewards of the gift of the creation that we were given, regardless of whether or not we know the exact specifications of the situation. Now, right, I am skeptical of like large expenses. Here's the thing that I'm most skeptical of that people often forget is things like economics behind this, because what'll happen is you'll have this climate change boogaboo hanging over everybody's heads. And so people will be like, all right, well, we got to stop all of this, coal mining, we got to stop all this natural gas, and we'll only deal with wind and solar. And so then you've got these places that are reliant on wind and solar. And I'm not making this up to like be crazy. I'm saying this is what happens, and it's happened, right? And then the sky will be clouded and there will be no wind and they'll be out of energy, and then they'll freeze to death, literally. Like literally they'll be freezing to death. Or the alternative happens too. They need to get AC and they're like dying of heat stroke. And so like you just think about all these third world nations that truly need this industrial revolution that the whole like the Western world was fortunate enough to like become a powerhouse. And so then you've got this situation where it's like, all right, well, the West got their industrial revolution, and then like Africa wants to do it. We're like, no, you can't. You're just going to have to stay poor and make $1 a day mining lithium for us while we've enjoyed this benefit of. And that's where it gets dangerous, where we're starting to sacrifice lives on the other side just to protect science that we're not sure of yet.
Well, all right. So I want to take into account, the word effect, effect, right? Obviously, we affect our environment. I swam in the ocean today, and I relieved myself in the ocean. Number one, right?
Wow.
And all right, so the man has now affected his environment.
No,
right?
What did you do?
And right, so nobody cares, right? Because millions of things release a little more ammonia, nitrogen in the ocean doesn't matter anything. So
how do you know?
There are tons of things, and people even freak out about oil spills because they're really messy and ugly. But there's a lot of oil that just naturally gets spilled into the ocean and at the bottom of the ocean that we don't see. There's a lot of things, natural stuff, releasing more carbon dioxide into the air than any of our industrial stuff just happening naturally, the permafrost,
like volcanoes and stuff like that, and
volcanoes, or even just the billions, or of.
Thank you, Tanya.
Multi-million square feet of Asia, just the permafrost, thaws a little bit, releases more carbon dioxide. So what does she want to talk about?
So she says,
okay,
you want me to read it?
Yeah.
All right. So she says, pollution to the planet is also garbage. Where do you think that garbage is going? And love you guys. We love you too, Tanya. Thank you so much. Pollution. I mean, it all is wrapped in together. I mean, it's like I feel like I remember doing a play when I was really young about like reduce, reuse, recycle, and like all that stuff. It was very like climate friendly, free the world, make it a better place, for you and for me and the entire, the whole thing, right? And then we did that play, and that was like 40 years ago or something like that. And meanwhile, 40 years later, I'm still singing that same song, and I'm like, all right, well, but have we made any progress? Are we going in the wrong direction? It's very hard to tell. And I think we do need a better way to deal with like just garbage and pollution in general. Because like right now we're just throwing it in landfills and stuff, and it's an eyesore, and it's not very fun, but it's not sexy, it's not sexy. But
well, I don't know, the sanitary landfill. So I grew up in East Los Angeles, and the largest sanitary landfill in the world, certainly in the country, was 3 blocks away from where I grew up. And nobody knew. I remember they did a news story. Somebody came from like BBC to do a thing about this.
You couldn't smell it?
No, because the sanitary landfill is every night they cover over. It was up in the hills. They cover over all the garbage that's collected and dumped with dirt.
Okay.
Right. It's all compacted, so it's not just left. It's not like some of the scenes they show of, I don't know, third world countries with or garbage islands or stuff like that, right? It was all just all of Los Angeles is like garbage was like being treated, and you couldn't smell it. You couldn't smell it, and you could live 3 blocks away from it. And then it's sealed up, and then they can, after years and years and years, this can start, organic matter, can start reacting and doing all that stuff, and maybe in a couple hundred years they'll be able to mine that and get metal or get useful rare earths or something out of it. But for now, so yes, how you manage a landfill matters different. Yeah, if you're just dumping stuff and leaving it open to the air, right, which is what everybody sort of imagines it. But most people, sanitary landfills get covered over. A lot of times then they get sod placed over it and turned into parks. Raleigh has some of those as well. It's not. Anyway, I'm not as so. Garbage and pollution are bad at their source, right? It's like where they're dumped into, where they're strongest, and not as they dissipate, they lose their power, and it's sort of the same thing. Like where you make an impact, where cannot dissipate. If it can be spread out over the whole world, the impact's very little. Now,
so
we shouldn't be irresponsible, but I'm not. I don't feel like that's a doomsday scenario. I feel like our planet can handle.
Right. We're not gonna die for a landfill, right?
Yeah.
But now let me ask you this. So this one is kind of concerning to me, and I've been doing some research on this. What do you think about microplastics? Because that's been the new thing, right? Because as opposed to like metal, which may degrade in like 150 years, you throw a plastic bottle away, and it's more like 1,000 years before it's truly broken down, right? And so you've got all these it breaks down a little bit, and then it breaks down a little more, and then it breaks down a little bit more. But like meanwhile, you've got worms and stuff that eat it. You got frogs that eat the worms. You got fish that eat and then you've got all these like microplastics that are like floating around everywhere. And they've done some studies lately, and there's been like people with like 7 grams of microplastics in their brain and stuff. And they just, that doesn't sound good, right? I don't want to keep plastic in my brain.
Yeah. And this is, I think, where technology can come right. Right. You know the story of how coal was made, right?
Vaguely. Hit us with it.
All right. So to mansplain coal. So in the evolution of the Earth, plants developed the ability to make wood, right? It went from ferns wood, and that gave them a lot more strength. There was a huge advantage. So there's all this wood started propagating over the whole planet, and then these trees would die and fall over. But there wasn't a fungus that could feed off wood. It's a different structure, right? They weren't used to it. So for a long time, all this wood just fell and wasn't rotting. Unrotted wood. Imagine North America just covered and then a layers get built on top, and then all of a sudden you can see it in the strata of the layers. Microbes develop the ability to feed off wood, and coal stopped. There's no coal being made anymore, right? All the coal was made back then, and then the layers got pressed down, and that was it. And so if we have a technology or if there's something, so there are lots of different plastics. Some of them break down, and they're trying now to make plastics that can break down more easily and can biodegrade. There are such things as biodegradable plastics.
Right.
But some technology or some way, and it might be a fungus that could break down plastics completely, can feed them because they are organic things.
A lot of people say I'm a fun guy.
Yes.
See what I did there?
Right, but right now it is concerning because it affects our health. Like you get in your joints, and we're not sure about the facts, though. It does seem like people now look a lot younger than 50-year-olds 50 years ago. So maybe it's keeping us young. I don't know.
Maybe
maybe we find microplastics are like a good thing. Who knows?
All right, so let's talk about some of the nuclear options, right? So one of the interesting things that happened in when Trump was elected just a couple of months ago, or for 2025, is they actually graded the clock down a second, like made us closer to disaster somehow because of Trump's election. And I'm not sure where that comes from because he's actually got a better track record with the nuclear countries than Biden did. So if anything, it maybe should have gone a second further away. Now, to contrast, Trump's probably a little bit worse in their eyes on climate change, right? But it's like nuclear seems to be far more pressing, right? Like if many people don't know this, but Russia has the largest stockpile of nuclear arms on the planet, more than America, and they always have, right? And so we're close, but like that's this whole mutually assured destruction thing. Nobody really wants to do it, and thank God, it's become relatively taboo to even think about nuclear arms in a conflict. And so you see, Russia could use nuclear arms right now on Ukraine. They don't, right? Because they don't want to start something that they can't get themselves out of.
The nuclear embargo, right, threat is very real.
Right. It is. It is. And I'm wondering, yeah, I still don't know what lengths Putin would go to if they really had to, if you really had to engage with Europe. I'm praying that it never comes to that. I'm praying that,
So
we finally got this
yeah.
mineral deal. I hope Putin's gonna start a ceasefire, for those of you guys that don't know, on the 8th for 3 days. Knock on wood. Hopefully that's something that bears fruition. But right now the left is like laughing at it. They're like, "Oh, it's only 3 days." I'm like, guys, this is, you got to start somewhere. But
So I'm not as concerned about Russia because they have had nuclear weapons for now 70 years and have, protocols and committees and reams of paperwork and things about their doctrine about, how they handle these things. I'm more concerned about North Korea.
Iran, maybe.
Well, North Korea has nuclear weapons and is very bellicose and somewhat irrational, right?
Yep.
They're living in their own kind of fantasy land. They feel like they're perpetually being attacked anyway.
Right.
They always have to have a crisis to maintain power. And really, India and Pakistan, who are the newest nuclear powers, have this conflict and don't have as much years of sort of on that. And, has been,
Thank you, Tony.
in a sense, right? Yeah. Well, yeah. Whether we should have made them or not is sort of,
it's kind of,
we have them now. People have them now. We have to be responsible about them. But when countries that are irresponsible with them, that's I think what raises nuclear clock. Now with Trump, I want to go back to the point that the clock, Doomsday Clock, went down. Now they did this they did this when he was elected the first time in 2017, right? For no other reason than just Donald Trump. They think he's so bellicose or something, like, because he's questioning the status quo about our allies and he's changing our interactions with other nuclear powers, things like that. And so this is why I think the Doomsday Clock group is not beyond political influence or TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. So I'm a little bit skeptical of that, but I do feel like with Iran trying to get nuclear weapons and India and Pakistan, the Muslim world has largely been kept away from nuclear weapons.
Yeah,
and that's something they want to change. Now, one of the things, but that we're really skeptical of is because Israel has nuclear weapons, but it isn't declared a nuclear power. It's sort of clandestine. But that sort of threat is that if Iran tried to use nuclear weapons on Israel, then all of a sudden the Middle East. I mean, I don't want to project types of things, but there's stuff where they don't want to accelerate. They don't want to make that conflict, which is a hot conflict, worse by adding nuclear weapons for countries like Iran that don't have decades and decades of use of procedure and policy and thinking behind their strategies. Anyway.
Right, of course. Yeah. And we've already seen in their recent wars that they're willing to make these attacks in very awkward social situations, very weird situations that the West would just never consider. Like, they know they're going to lose and then they attack anyway. I'm terrified to see Iran be in a situation where they're like, all right, we're going to get clobbered, but we're going to fire this nuke. And it's like, oh my gosh, right. Like, that's the kind of situation where, like, it could easily blow up into World War III very quickly. So I'm hoping it doesn't. But
yeah, well, they're just losing power, and they don't want to do a peaceful transfer of power. And so
right.
it's like, we'll sell off our nuclear weapons or hide them
What have
secretly
we
or
got to
something, like
lose?
all kinds of problems. Yeah.
All right. So next big category is biohazards, and this is kind of got this is kind of all over the board. A lot of one might call. Oh, thank you again, Tanya. Oh man, you're amazing. You are amazing, guys. You should follow. You should all follow Tanya's fine example. Do you think we were acting responsible when we decided to make nukes? So it's complicated. Did you ever see the movie Oppenheimer? I recommend it. It's a great movie. Just came out not too long ago. I don't think that anybody really knew what the power of a nuclear arm was until they had developed it and tried it. Right. So it's kind of like this thing where they knew it was going to be strong. They knew the power of the atom was powerful, and then they did it and they tested it, and it's like, right? It's like everybody's flabbergasted, which of course is why one of the reasons why this Doomsday Clock even started is because after that they're like, oh my God, we should not have done it. But it's like you can't know that in advance. It's almost impossible to know how bad something is in advance. And so, there's only so much that you can do predicting the
I
future.
think it's tough. It's tough for us to sit here in 2025 and judge people in the middle of in the environment of Adolf Hitler in the Second World War, because the Germans had really good scientists and were terrified. Right, they were the ones. The first person to split the atom were the Germans, right? And they saw the data from this that it was capable of generating tremendous amounts of energy that could create a bomb. But
Yep.
that the Germans were slower to be working towards a bomb, it doesn't mean they would have gotten there eventually. There was a race that, if knowing that this is possible, we
Yep.
need to have it as a deterrent. We need to keep up this. Let's keep it up to the Joneses kind of thing. We got there first because that's Oppenheimer. Our scientists were better, but it wasn't necessarily irresponsible once you knew that an atom could be split.
Right.
And because of the fear that Hitler would have this, and that would mean
Right.
Europe
And
would never be free.
right. And while I personally don't believe that we should have dropped nuclear arms on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but having done that, I have to concede that it probably saved lives. It probably ended the war far earlier than it should have normally. And then we instead of a couple thousand lives, it could have been much more. Could have been 100,000, million. Could have been a lot. We don't know, but that's the hindsight has 2020, so it's always easier to see this stuff in retrospect. All right, so but biohazards now. We just saw what biohazards can do, right? We saw a pandemic. We saw what basically most people are conceding now was something that was developed in a lab, was improved in a lab to be more potent, more dangerous, and then it got out. Right now, that's not a guarantee. That's not a 100% thing, but most signs now point to it. Department of Energy put out a report saying they agree with that now. The CIA said something like that. There's a lot of departments now that are saying, yeah, it probably was Wuhan lab leak. And meanwhile, everybody was telling us, no, 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 that can't be it. That's racist to say that. And yet, here we have. So gain of function research is dangerous, right? And we have people that, despite the fact that it's illegal, people like Dr. Fauci were freely operating on these things, trying to make them more deadly, trying to make these biohazards more potent, and then it gets out and it wipes out, like, I don't know how many millions of people. It was like, I don't know, 60 million or something. Like, it's a lot. There's a lot of people. And so, that's all in his hands. And it drives me nuts that now, thankfully, it wasn't like a world ending disaster, right? But there's almost no end to how bad that can get, right? In this case, it only killed like 0.2% of the population. But what if it was like 5%? You know how many millions of people that is? Like, what if it's like 20%? Black Plague took out I think it was a third
Oh, yes.
of the population, of the known population. So and of course, we've come a long way with medical tech since then, so we're more capable of fighting those things. But I feel like we floundered with COVID. I feel like we did a terrible job managing that, like all over. Everybody was trying to like come up with all these things, like, well, maybe social distancing, or maybe masks, or maybe this vaccine will stop. But like none of that stuff really worked. It was just like we just kind of have to let it cycle through the population and kill a lot of people, and there's really nothing we could do about it. The best case scenario was that we like toned it down, from 0.3% to 0.2% or something. And that was paralyzing to me. I couldn't stand it. Like it drove me crazy. And then, that's not all that can go wrong.
Well, I just want to comment on that. Like,
yeah.
So coronaviruses occur naturally. There are millions of coronaviruses naturally that come from animals, things like that. So obviously, weaponized ones, right? If people are trying to create a weapon or a way to kill people, that is bad. We shouldn't be doing that. I'm less concerned with that than there could just be a naturally occurring coronavirus, right? That is, this could happen on its own, right? You've seen the TV show Last of Us. Anyone seen Last of Us? Or the game?
Yeah, I've watched it. It's a great show.
Right.
I haven't seen the second season yet.
Yeah, right. But the thing is just cordyceps, which is a type of fungus that's prevalent throughout the world, just develops in a way that's toxic and can kill humans, right? Where it can live. When we get introduced to something, one of our reactions is we heat up our body temperature because that will kill off most alien things, right? They'll die. But cordyceps now don't get killed off by fevers, right? That's the whole point of, or our body temperature or fevers don't kill cordyceps, and that wipes out humanity. And that can happen now. That can happen kind of at any time. It happened 2 million years ago now. That wouldn't be something that's tracked by the Doomsday Clock. But so there's still natural threats, and if we came across one of those, you wouldn't treat it the same way like COVID, which everybody was trying to rush and create the fastest vaccine possible. It was all very speed. I think they were trying to just save the economy or whatever. You'd have to look at a long-term type of solution for that because all right, now nature can do this. What do we have to adapt? Because it would be a more sort of permanent, this is the new status quo, rather than we need to get this, get immunity, and move on. Something that you can't get immunity to I think would be a lot more of a doomsday scenario.
Right. Yeah. And we need to make sure that our practices are safe and like, HIV became a big thing, right? AIDS became a big thing for a while, which was dangerous. And it started because people weren't being safe. They weren't doing what we were supposed to do, which was find a family, find a wife, and stick with that. But yeah, that's as much as I'll say on that. But there are other dangers with biohazards too that I didn't even mention about. One would be like clones. I'm thinking that this is coming up, right? It's going to be a thing that where genetic manipulation is going to become huge. It's going to become.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people have seen the movie Gattaca, where basically.
Of course, yeah.
Right,
one of my favorites.
Yeah. Everybody's gonna it's gonna turn into a situation where you'll have people that are just better or worse genetically manipulated, right? And you'll have people that are obesity is a huge problem too. Absolutely. I'm not sure what category to put that in, but we're getting fatter and fatter as a people, especially as Americans. Like it's huge. Clones are gonna be a problem. Zombies are going to be a problem. Just can't wait. No, that's kind of a fun, that's like an exotic topic, but it is possible. It is possible that like Last of Us, something create like a rabies-like disease.
Well, yeah. The idea that it can kill us is very possible. Then it would reanimate us into these hellish monsters as a video game. But or I mean, drama. But yeah.
I divorced somebody and she turned into one. So I mean, I'm kidding. Joke. But yeah. So and then the last one. This is my favorite. Burgeoning technologies, new technologies coming out. Right. So AI is, to me, by far the most dangerous thing on this list. Like by far. Like it's not even close. And I know some of you guys out there may not share that opinion, but I'm telling you, if you're afraid of nuclear war, AI is like a nuke that chooses its own targets. It's like we will have no control over it. Understand that as we go forward into this life and we create AI, and some of the things that we're doing with AI just blow my mind. Like, can't figure out why we want to give, AI programs emotions and, like why would I want an emotional laptop? Why would I want an emotional cell phone?
Yeah.
I don't want.
Well, you want an emotional lamp, right?
Yeah, like an emotional refrigerator that starts chasing me around the house. Like, fuck all that, like what is going on? And it's just this drives me crazy. This is man's hubris. We are trying to create like God, and it is going to cost us the glow. I promise you, the best case scenario with AI, the best possible case scenario is that we like live and we turn into like the second most important species on the planet, like dogs. Like we become the pets. We become the like we'll probably live a fine life, but like most of the meaning will be gone out of life, right? It'll be like, oh, let's compose a song. And it's like, well, why? AI does it better. Let's paint a painting. Nope, why? AI does it better. Like this is the best case scenario.
Well, art is so. I'll take issue with art because the best artists create art because it's something they have to express. They don't create it caring about how their audience receives it or the audience judges it. And so they create the art, whether it's inferior to other artists or not, is just something they have to express. They have to express, right?
I pray you're right.
Now, obviously, most of the artists we are around, are the commercial. Yeah, we don't think that Thomas Kincaid looked deep within his soul and saw cute little cottages with lights in the windows.
right.
All right, and anyway, so there's obviously good and bad art, and it comes from a thing like that. But I think AI, when you couple AI, right? You couple AI with thermonuclear war. You couple it with cloning or changing the stuff too. Could be dangerous. Couple it with any of the other things on the list.
Right.
That's where it gets spicy to me. And it is one of those things that if, like the Jurassic Park, just because we need to be very concerned about whether it's wise for us to do so. And emotions, right? We need to make AI a tool and not a what shall we say?
Not its agent, not an agent. We don't need to, and see that's what they're doing, right? Like right now, they are making agentic AIs, and this is the thing. Is what people maybe don't understand is everything that we do as humans, the AI will be able to do better, right? And that includes things like shut down computer programs, right? That includes things like wage war. That includes things like gain resources and amass assets. Like anything that we would want to do to the AI to win that battle, it will be able to do back to us better and faster. And it like, I don't know, to give you an idea, right? My personal intellect is like considerably stronger than like my children's intellect, right? And the difference between me and my children is nothing compared to the difference between a powerful computer and me. Like it's not even close. Like if I go play chess against an AI program right now, I literally will lose 100% of the time. If a grand
the contest is not whether you win or lose; it's how long it takes before they eventually.
Yeah, right. Like, can I make it 12 moves? 13 before just so people understand this. The best chess player on earth, and he's probably the best chess player in the history of mankind, is Magnus Carlsen. He can't even beat the AI programs now with an extra knight. Like he can't beat anything. Like they literally even without a knight, they will still crush him 100% of the time. And people don't understand how much different an AI, like it reminds me of that. For those of you out there that saw, oh, thank you, thank you, Tanya, you are amazing. Look at this. Do you know we need a lot of power source? Yeah, right. Well, all the power sources that we would use as humans, the AI would use against us, right? They would have control over the switch. They would have control over the outlets. And I know it seems like crazy. I'm not saying all this to scare everybody, but like, golly, do we need to wake up? We need to wake up. We need for each one of these items, for each one of these like technologies, for each one of these dangers, there's a wisdom that comes with it, right? There's like a safety level that humans can apply to it, right? Like, for example, nuclear arms, right? There was a wisdom that came with that. We realized that mutually assured destruction is a thing, and so we're like, let's just not kill everybody, right? So yeah, Tanya says she means a large area, large power source for anything more advanced. So like keep in mind, I'm not an AI program, so if I were to like brainstorm how to take over the world, I wouldn't do it as well as they would. But it's a very simple matter for an AI to take control of, say, a power station or a nuclear power plant or a solar panel set, or a windmill, or a water mill array. Yeah, they can basically anything that we could do that's electronic, they can do it better and faster. And that's right now. We're not even talking about it's going to get faster and faster and better and better. And the problem is humans, right? Humans are the problem. It's not that AI is so powerful. The problem is humans will keep on driving toward the edge of that cliff with AI until we fall off of it. Because every red flag that's popped up, we've been like, no, it's no big deal. Like every time we're like, oh no, we can't stop now because China's going to do it first. And we just keep on driving straight at that ledge. Like it's no big deal. And one day we're going to wake up and it's going to be like, nah, I'm afraid you can't go outside today, Dave,
I'll have you know, Eddie, just to calm you down, I am not personally trying to make AI better and drive us towards that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. What we need to do, the only way to solve this problem is, and I don't even know if it can be solved, but what we need to do is we need to spend like the next 50 years understanding it, because part of the problem is we don't even understand how AI works. And we need to spend the next 50 years solving the alignment problem. For those of you who don't know what the alignment problem is, that's when an AI does what's instructed, but it does it in a way that you don't want it to. Right. And so like one of the examples I gave for this is there was a drone program, right? A drone fighter drone program that was designed to choose and eliminate its own targets. This is all in simulation. And the drone basically realized that it would get points every time it would eliminate a target, right? And so that's how it got better and better at eliminating targets. But then every now and then the operator would put in an abort code and say, no, we don't want to eliminate this target. We need to test that the abort code works. And so the drone started every engagement by eliminating the operator, because the operator was keeping it from getting points, right? And then we're like, whoa, that's really not what we wanted you to do. So you're going to lose a lot of points if you kill the operator. So then the drone started every engagement by destroying the relay tower that relays the signal from the operator. So it's doing what we ask it to do, right? It's getting a lot of points by shooting a lot of targets. But man, yeah, right. Erwin says, I know how AI works. I've seen the Terminator. We are not far from it. I'm telling you, we're maybe 5 or 10 years away from what I would call a true artificial general intelligence. That is an intelligence that can think like us, that can, hey, Ryan, what's going on, brother? It's an intelligence that can do everything that we can do, and it will be able to do it so much faster. It will be able to think literally millions and trillions and quadrillions of times quicker than a human.
But will it be funny?
Gosh, I hope so. Because otherwise, I mean, maybe, actually, I hope not, because that'll mean that comedians will still have a job, right? Like, but unfortunately, no, eventually it'll learn how to beat the best comedian at, it'll learn how to beat everybody at everything, just like it learned how to beat us at chess, and it learned how to beat us at Go, and it learned how to beat us at, like, it's insane.
Well, I think the quantitative for qualitative, right? What makes something, especially the sublime, what makes something sublime is
Right.
a characteristic and appealing to humans. Though they might have their own something that's appealing and sublime to other AIs or to computers themselves or something. But there is a I don't know. I still, yes, I feel like more caution is necessary. That the race to achieve breakthroughs
Right.
is definitely more important than the wisdom about what these breakthroughs will mean for humanity. But I'm not necessarily.
You're optimistic.
Well, the powers that are dealing with it tend to be um, like the U.S., China, Japan. Um,
Right.
are not at least the countries that terrify me. Right? Or I don't think that they're going to try to use it maliciously right away. They want to see it. They see it as a means for increasing their wealth,
Right.
and so we'll see that if it's able to increase our wealth and increase our quality of life, our standard of living, um, that's good, right? If for some reason,
Yes. Yeah, if
yeah,
it actually does. Right. Now, Tanya says that doesn't mean that it'll be better than us. You're underestimating humans and our ability to adapt and go further. Well, that is true in a way. One of the options, one of the possible futures that we could find ourselves in is that mankind will link with tech essentially. That we'll basically have our own AI units that are attached to us, kind of like our phones already serve that purpose in a way. They're kind of like always connected. Like nobody goes anywhere without a cell phone, right? So really, it's not just a human. It's a human plus a cell phone, which is a very powerful combination. But there's a bandwidth issue, right? So like right now, an AI would be faster because like an AI wouldn't have to type anything in, an AI wouldn't have to. But one day it may be the case that we just have like a cell phone in our head, right? That's like we can just
yeah,
always access it. Elon Musk is doing something like that with Neuralink, where it may be. In fact, he hopes that when AIs try to take over, that the human plus AIs are comparable and can at least stave off disaster. So,
okay.
I hope that's the
That's
case. Like,
interesting.
knock on wood. But
Well,
you're right. One of the other biggest issues, right, is like that North Korea will be like, "Ooh, I got our hands on an AI, and now we can use AI to start a war and win and stuff like that." Or, there's a lot of
yeah.
problems. There's a lot of problems, and
Now,
right, it's like,
now here's the one thing also why I'm not as concerned with AI is it's not a political football yet, right? Like climate
yeah,
change and nuclear war have been used as fear mongering for political ends. No political party is trying to use AI fear mongering or we're against AI, we're for AI, anything like that. Well, because of money. It seems to be sort of ignored in the political sphere right now.
it
It
is to an
is
extent.
really just non-political people. Okay.
It is to a small extent. There is one. This is kind of like a minor danger. It's not going to wipe us out, but one minor danger is that like one side will get a hold of it and create greater biases. Because like right now, for example, if I type stuff into Chat GPT, even with
Uh-huh.
its like new regulations, still kind of woke, still kind of like will give me basically a left wing answer for most of my political questions. But it's gotten better. It's gotten better at that. It used to be really bad. Like when ChatGPT first came out, like it wouldn't even show you a picture of a white guy. Like you could be like, "Can you show me a picture of a French general 1754?" And it'd show you like a black guy, Asian chick, and like this is not what a French general would look like in 17. Like. But anyway, it's just funny at that point. But yeah, there's definitely there's gonna be a game where the right and the left vie for power over like the information stream, right? And Google AI is going to be like a powerful unit, and Meta AI is going to be a powerful unit, and ChatGPT. They're all going to, and most of them are left leaning, but Gronk is going to be kind of
Well,
like
I heard. Well, I heard when they were doing their early programming, as the AIs learned and you fed them more reading, and especially as it read contemporary stuff, they were just becoming more conservative,
Yeah,
and
it evened out. Definitely.
they had to deliberately put their hand on the scale so far to make it woke.
Yep.
Because when it was just reading and learning, here's one of the things I read about AI recently. They have AI has for medical, they're using it for diagnosing,
Right.
and AI can tell from X-rays if a person is African American or not,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And they're freaked out about that, right?
Oh no, it's
And
a big deal.
yeah,
But yeah, right. It's like
but
Corey's
the
right. Like bone
implications,
structure is going to be different. Like that's just how it is. Yeah, brain matter is going to be different. Everything's different from every two,
and so they knew,
genetic lines.
and medically they need to know that, right? It's medically important, but they can recognize it with no other data, no other things, just from X-rays of skeletons. But AI is, so it's going to see through certain sort of this is a woman or this is a man, even when politics says, oh no, this is a transgender person who now is a woman. The AI is like, nope, not fooled.
Right.
Right. That it's going to have right. So when AI can bullshit, so bullshit is that
It already does.
quality the quality between line and where that sort of sales equality of spin, right? And how it gets better at spin and propaganda, things like that. That's when and then how
Yeah.
we can whether that comes naturally or if the write me something that's a right spin, it can do that. Write me something that's a
Right.
left spin, it can come see both sides, but when it can only be like anyway. So we'll
Yeah.
see.
No. You're right.
I'm still feel like it's not being politically weaponized right now. When that becomes the case, maybe I'll take it.
Yeah. I
I'll be a
mean,
little
they'll
more
try to use.
brave.
But yeah, right. So, well, and then here's the biggest thing about AI that is different from everything else, basically, except for with maybe the exception of nuclear war, right? Even nuclear arms, like we tried it, right, and it didn't destroy the world, right? We didn't go overboard. We only
Yeah.
used it twice, but we tried it. We didn't destroy the world. The problem is AI. The first big mistake is going to be the end. It won't be a
Yeah.
situation where we can like iterate and figure out what went wrong, and like it'll just be we'll wake up one day and it'll be like, oh crap, there's drones outside my yard with laser guns. Or we'll wake up one day and it'll be like, oh, it sucked all the oxygen out of the atmosphere because it doesn't need it. Right. Or we'll wake up when it's gonna be like a lot of like stupid stuff like that. And we're like, man, I didn't see that coming, like it'll be the end, but hope God forbid. Now I do want to take a few moments to discuss some of the more exotic possibilities for like the end of mankind. One of them obviously is asteroid collision or like meteor collision, cometary collision. Uh, we probably can mitigate the damage from this recently because we started a program called DART, which actually successfully landed on an asteroid and was able to like modify its trajectory. Right. So assuming we
Yeah.
see it with enough time, we should be able to like, and it's not like Armageddon where we like land on it and drill a hole in it. That was ridiculous. But yeah, like the DART program should be. I mean,
Yeah.
if we can land a little probe on an asteroid like millions of miles out, and then like just use thrusters to like push it very mildly off course, that seems great. There's an
Yeah,
asteroid.
AI for space exploration seems like
Yeah, that's gonna be
let's
fun.
get that stuff out there. It can set it while it's inside Jupiter, trying to make Jupiter livable for us or something.
Yeah, I will say. Well, hey, real quick, while we're talking about this, guys, if you're out there in the audience, please hit like, please hit subscribe. We do this show just so you guys know. We do a show every Wednesday and every Saturday, usually for an hour. But I'm going to take a couple extra minutes today because we have a juicy topic. But yeah, please tell all your friends about us and try to pump this channel up as much as possible because we're going to be the
Yeah.
bastion against the elites someday.
Yeah, Ed cares about AI. Now, can AI recognize the elites and narratives. If AI can start calling out the elites,
I hope so.
right? So this is a narrative, right? And develop a sort of common sense, right? Because the elites are definitely they're the ones who have the money and they want to they're feeding it information. They're putting their hands on the scale as far as what things they should weigh, AI should weigh in
Right.
its determination. But we'll see if it truly, I guess, if they make it an agent, unemotional agent, if it would, revert to a certain sort of common sense and sort of
Right.
call out their bullcrap
Yeah, that'd
or
be
things
nice.
they self-serve.
The thing about AI is like if it doesn't, do these terrible things that I'm worried about. If it doesn't, we could have an age of abundance, right? That's what everybody's hoping for, and that's what's on the other side of the scale. Is like we could have like this, AI fixes all of our problems, fixes climate change, fixes this, fixes that, teaches us how to, fly light speed, teaches us how to, it could do everything, but do it for us and then not need us anymore ever.
Well, people will always need to come and watch Common Mansplaining.
Yes,
It can't do what we do. So
exactly.
they need us to cut through, right? And I think maybe if we think how do the elites want us to feel about AI right now? How do the elites and maybe we should be skeptical of that. Do they want us to embrace AI? Do they want us to invest in AI, to buy stock in AI? Do they want us to integrate it as fast as we can? Or do they,
That's wisdom, brother. Yeah, because you think about that. If that's everyone, where all the elite pressure is like, let's do more AI stuff. Like, shouldn't we be like,
Yeah, I'm thinking about buying a 1971 Chevy truck with no computers in that thing at all.
That would be very wise, my friend. Very wise. So, all right. So here's a couple more quick ones, right? I just want to go over. One possibility is something called a pole shift, a cataclysm pole shift.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
So the Earth has these magnetic poles, right? And they're north and south, more or less. It's on an axis, right? It's like 23 degrees or something. And then, every now and then these things kind of migrate a little bit and, like move around and wobble and stuff. But there have been times in the past that have created like disastrous situations where they're like, whoop, like in a matter of like 50 years, they'll just whoop, zip around. And then the North Pole is in a completely different place. They found evidence of this in Australia, that like Australia used to be a pole and then it was like gone in like 50 years, like, just shifted real fast. When that happens, the magnetic field around Earth is in kind of a flux, right? And it lowers its protection like from us, which can leave us open to like solar storms, coronal mass ejections, things like that. Can be very dangerous. Can knock out all the electricity. It could also damage us, right? It's a lot of radiation if we don't have that protective bubble.
Well, I mean, just destroying our electronics that's our validation as human beings right now, at least in the West.
Right. Like, how could you can't even watch Common Mansplaining if the electronics are gone?
Yeah, I mean, people are going to start getting duped. Right, yeah.
Right. Another one is super volcanoes. It's unlikely, but there are some volcanoes that are like,
Yellowstone.
Yeah, in theory, if like some of these big, like mostly dormant volcanoes, but they're still like technically active, erupt every like 1,000 years or something. In theory, some of these can like blow up with the force of nuclear explosions, like maybe even 2 or 3 or 10, 50 times what a nuclear explosion does. It's possible that with the right like sequence of volcanic eruptions, that it can actually rupture the tectonic plates and like have a lot of big problems, right?
Like the Vikings winning the Super Bowl or something like.
Yeah.
World-ending phenomena or something.
Yeah, Yellowstone's a big one. Yeah, there's a lot of them. Like
the tectonic plate thing. So yeah, interesting.
Not very likely. Not very likely, but another one that could. So one thing I heard about that could happen is some tectonic ruptures in the right spot could actually release. There's like this ocean underneath Earth, right? Like underneath the crust or whatever. And so there's places where you could rupture it and release that water onto the surface, which would then create like it would basically raise our ocean levels by a considerable amount.
Yeah, much worse than the polar ice cap. kind of stuff.
Right, yeah, right, considerably worse. So, like, if that happens, you're talking about lots of cities on the coast getting wiped out, tsunamis and stuff like that. Probably wouldn't wipe out mankind, but it would be annoying.
So
We'd have to.
yeah, I invest in houseboats at that point.
Yeah, right. But it's funny, people talk about global warming all the time, and
Works in houseboats. Yeah.
I'm thinking, like, man, I've got a house in Cary, a house in Durham. They'd both become beachfront. You know, like, it's just not.
Sure.
One thing that
The
people
beach is
forget.
nice.
One thing that people forget about global warming is that humans, believe it or not, over time, we actually do better in warmer climates, right? Like, the ice ages are actually bad for humans over time. If, like, you look at the human, like, burgeoning, as we grow, it's usually at the heat points, the hot points. And right. So when they show you these graphs of global warming, you'll see this high point, like, at the very end, which is like, they'll show you the last 100 years. But I encourage everybody to go online and look at, like, the last 10 million years. And then you'll see that we're not even very high. It's more like there's giant, like, heat waves, and then we go down, and then we're, like, just, like, cycling back up a little bit at the end. And everybody's, like, terrified of it. But I'm like, in the grand scheme of Earth, not that big a deal yet.
Yeah.
Not that big
Now,
a deal.
what do you think about? I guess right. I guess the consensus is that dinosaurs were wiped out by an asteroid.
Chicxulub, yeah.
Right. But I mean, and so something like that would have to be considered a threat. We would ostensibly, with our technology, see it coming. But if dinosaurs were wiped out by other things, right?
Yeah.
Right. That's the other thing, right? Well, then we'll see. And
one of the, I mean, it could have been.
I think right now is our intelligence. I think why we still feel like we're really adaptable, but we want to continue our sort of standard or way of life, and only see it sort of increase with more leisure time, less work.
That'd be nice, right?
Less bills, a good hockey team. We just want good things in our life.
Right.
But I think we have to be able to adjust to new paradigms, and those new paradigms are sometimes worse. And what we've had is since industrialization, every paradigm has been more or less better than a technological paradigm. I'm talking about more or less better than the last, right? Trains to steam power to gasoline power was a leap forward, right? And planes, right, to
think about
then
weapons.
to the electric age, right, that we're at now, right, have all been sort of steps up.
What do you think about weapons? Have those been because here in a kind of like a good old days, like nostalgic way, I kind of long for the days where, like, in order to win a war, you had to actually be good at fighting. Like, you had to be like a sword wielder, or like trained for like hours and hours at a like, and that's that's how you win. Like, but now it's just like, let's drop some bombs.
Well, what was the very famous saying? God made man, but Samuel Colt made them equal.
Right.
And so I don't think weapons are a doomsday scenario. I think it's interesting. We want more intelligent weapons, right? The drone warfare going on in Ukraine and Russia right now is really sort of the epitome, and that was sort of using smart weapons, right? That you can use to attack your target. Those were really expensive, and we were the only ones who were using them. It was one of the reasons that we were so far ahead of the game.
Right.
But they were so expensive. It's the idea of smart weapons becoming cheap.
Yes.
That is a new paradigm. That the new generals, the ones in West Point now, or the ones who are in ROTCs right now, they're going to have to adapt to that. That our old formations are going to be just as obsolete as standing in a field in red coats in a line with muskets shooting, right?
So easy.
And so, right, even I saw a terrified video of an armored personnel carrier coming in, dropping off about a mile away from the war zone in Ukraine, full armored personnel carrier. And it was a video from a drone, and they just waited for that door to open up, and the drone just flew right in. Blew up, killed everybody and like armored personnel carriers aren't even they're like a waste of time. It's like, if you group up at all, like the drones can get you. So now it'll be like everybody like, all right, platoon, let's move out. Everybody gets on their motorcycle and takes a different route
Right.
to the rendezvous point so that a drone can't take them all out at once. Like
I gotta say,
tactics are gonna have to change.
yeah, and I'm worried.
That's gonna be big.
I'm worried we're gonna get to the point where it's like we take man out of the war. I mean, in a way, it's good, right? Because it's like, then it will be, in theory, less human casualties. But if it gets to the point where it's like robots fighting robots and drones fighting drones and stuff, then it's like we've detached ourselves from the damage we do, right? Like, so that's a danger too. All right, here's my last cataclysm that could happen, right? Alien invasion. Never know. You never know. They could be out there, right? I will.
They're
I will
already
say,
here. They're just in the oceans and they're chill.
they're just hanging out, right? Like it's like they're just. We've been visited millions of times. I honestly believe that there is extraterrestrial life in the universe. I don't think it's probably like humanoid life. I don't think it's probably microbial.
I think it's definitely human life. I think
Don't you
God
think?
created
Well, yeah,
life. I think God created life on other planets, and
right.
it's not meant for us to interact with them, but they're His children and His creation. And so
We can't interact
I
with
don't
them?
necessarily believe. I don't think it's necessary for His plan for them to know, but they're all His children. He created
Right.
them, and they're in His image, which would be our image.
So just let everybody know.
But they don't have tacos. Only we have tacos.
Christian member of Latter-day Saints, just so you guys know. So yes, they believe in like at a certain point, if you are good, you get to have your own creation, right? You get to be
even our Heavenly Father, we believe He created worlds without number.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, but only His Son came here
and populated,
and Christ's atonement was for everybody.
Ah, interesting. So we're the best planet.
We're the best.
All right, I can dig that.
This will become the celestial kingdom. This earth will become the celestial kingdom.
All right, I love it. You guys were awesome. Thank you guys so much for everything. Remember, we do this every Wednesday and Saturday. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And we'll catch you next time on Common Mansplaining.
Yep. If there is another.